Welcome back to another episode of the Battle Buddy podcast. You're definitely going to want to pay attention today because we're going to have a fascinating conversation with a woman who has taken the idea of theater and plays and very tough conversations about mental health and military sexual trauma and social justice and those kind of things that are difficult conversations, but necessary conversations to have, and taken great actors and putting them into plays and interactive advocacy and using that as a platform to have difficult conversations and using that as a catalyst for change and some other steps involved in it. I don't want to spoil it all, but it's a very fascinating thing. I know when she broke it down for me last week when we initially talked about it, I was like, wow, this is really fascinating. I love this. This is a great way to get people involved in the process and talk about these kind of things because these kind of things need to be talked about. So very excited to talk about this and how she does this. And this is a great resource for anybody who has something like this that may need some sort of resource in their community or for a veterans outreach thing or whatever. This is a great way to go about doing that. So, without further ado, let's dive into it.
Welcome to the Battle Buddy Podcast with Keith McKeever.
So, welcome, Tanya. I'm so excited to have you on here.
Yes, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes, like I said in the intro, I really, when you started like peeling back those layers of the onion, I was like, man, this is really, really cool. But anyway, we'll get into that here in a minute. Share with us a little bit of your background, your military
Yes,
story and all that stuff.
yes, absolutely. So my name is Tanya Jones. I'm the CEO and founder of Interactive Advocacy. I'm also a disabled veteran, and I actually also used to work for the Department of Defense as well. So in terms of my veteran status, both as an active duty member, a reservist, as well as a MilTech too. So that was really interesting. But it's over 20 years I've worked with the military inside and out with the federal government, doing a lot of work with as an inspector general, doing EEO, sexual assault prevention. So that's pretty much what my background has been. And also what I think kind of assisted guide me in this direction. You know, when you're on a journey, you don't realize how much of a journey you are on until you start, until you get there. So I think that that's kind of what it's been for me. But the work that I've been doing has been pretty much over the last 25 years.
Yeah, and it's a lot of this has been something I'm assuming has been very much an interest and passion of yours, probably since you were little. You know,
Yes,
the acting and the theatrical side of things. I
yes.
figured.
Absolutely. So as by nature, by design, I always tell people that I am a creative. And long before I realized that I was a creative, and being a creative allowed me to utilize a voice that I never really knew I had. Unfortunately for me, I have experienced childhood trauma. And me going into the military was actually a way for me to escape. I don't know if you've heard, people say that they're, running towards something or running away from something. For me, I was just kind of running away from all of the trauma that I've experienced and went into the military as a place to escape. But not only was I able to escape there, I was able to really just kind of grow and use my voice in ways that I never even could have imagined. And as a result of my trauma, it led me to be a very isolated individual. But in the moments of that isolation, it allowed me to create. I've been a writer for years, a journaler. I would always write short stories, poems, that kind of thing. It was something that I was always very interested in. And as a young person, I didn't have access to therapy. So writing ultimately became my therapy. Excuse me. I could get lost and transcend in my imaginary world, and ultimately that led me to be a very creative, free thinking person when it came time to doing my training. So everything from equal opportunity, equal employment opportunity on the civilian side, sexual assault prevention. Anytime I would do training, I recognized that in order for me to be able to connect with my audiences, it needed to be very impactful, but it also needed to be relatable. And a lot of times when you just throw a PowerPoint presentation up on the board, people didn't they didn't get it. There was a level of disconnect because they couldn't tie themselves to the storyline. So I
It's the
would
death by
always,
PowerPoint that we're, definitely famous
absolutely,
for in the military, though.
yeah, the what do you call it? The dares with the
Eh,
headlights.
I'm
And
sure they're doing this in the military these days.
oh, it's worse. Yeah, they're on their phones. But people would not engage with those stories, so I needed that connection, because if someone came to my office and told me that this is one of the things that they were concerned with, and it was happening in our organization, I needed to show you what this looked like, and if it affected one person, it could affect the many. And so I always started to incorporate that type of training, or that impactful or interactive training in my training sessions. And that began the writing on the wall for what would ultimately be interactive advocacy. So I didn't realize that I was doing that over the last, 15 years or so, until I kind of put it all together. And I was like, wow, I really think I'm onto something here. And as I shared with you, I was also a victim of childhood trauma, but also adult trauma. So our first presentation, or the first play that I ever wrote, was No Words. Our No Words performance is my own personal story with sexual trauma. And what I loved about being able to write that piece was it was another level of freedom that it allowed me on my resiliency journey. And I could change the storyline, I could give it a different ending, and it was empowering for me. And, initially it was just something that I could do to help myself. And then I realized that by being able to tell, all of these amazing stories, it would help so many people. And that's one of the things that we do here at Interactive Advocacy. We provide unparalleled storytelling through lived experiences as well as scripted. And I tell people all the time, if you come to one of our shows, we're going to make you laugh. We're probably going to make you cry, but we're always going to do it in a safe space learning environment. And that's ultimately what it is. And my goal every time I work with organizations is that we get individuals, we give individuals the ability to act. And we call that actively create transformation. Our goal is to be able to, create cultural change and shifts when we see these types of toxic behaviors impact our community.
That's awesome. If you just get the needle to move just a little bit, just one person, then two, then three, and four. Um, that's how change happens. It doesn't massive change doesn't happen overnight. Just one person, two people, three people. But if it is five people, then 10 people, then 20 people, even better. But um, I I absolutely love the idea of that. I would love to go to one of your sessions. I love pushing the envelope and pushing the boundaries and making people uncomfortable rather than sitting there by that death by PowerPoint. But so you definitely came up with something that's been a passion and a creative side of what you were and turned it into a business. And I definitely want to hit on that for a second.
Yes,
So, it's a business, um, but it's a passion. And it's definitely a couple of things there. One, you're in the Charlotte, North Carolina Veterans Business Association.
yes.
So how has that been impactful? What is that? What does that look like? And how has it been impactful for your business? That's
Well,
the first
that
question there.
that has been a very new opportunity that just presented itself. I was actually just recently elected to be the chair for the Charlotte region for the North Carolina Business Veterans Business Administration Association, and I'm really honored about that because us as veterans, sometimes we don't have access to all of the information that we need, and it's really great when we can kind of get together and kind of talk about what are you doing, and what's been working for you, and how can I help. It's that camaraderie, a band of brothers and sisters in the armed forces. And even after we retire or we ETS, we still are more inclined to kind of gravitate towards each other, and it's good, healthy rivalry when we talk about Army versus Navy, Navy versus Air Force. It's great stuff. But one of the things I love most about this organization is the ability to do some great team working and collaborations, and just really just share, what's going on in your specific area, your town, your city. What do you have access to? What do you need? And then from there, we're able to reach out to our local politicians to say, hey, listen, this is what we need for this area. If you are sharing that you're supporting veterans, how could you support us in this way? So I really do enjoy having the opportunity to now be have this platform so I can do more to assist veteran entrepreneurs, their families, their spouses, and just kind of work together to see how we can continue to build as entrepreneurs once we've left the military.
I bet you've had a lot of success too reaching out to those politicians, because the more of a collective voice that you have, the better. If you come to them with
Absolutely.
one or two people, yeah, they may or may not listen to you, right? Depends if you have a personal connection and they want to take the meeting. But if you show up with 10 people at the door, 20 people at the door, and say, hey, we have an issue, we as your
Absolutely.
constituents want to talk to you,
Absolutely.
it's a little harder for them to say no. You know?
Absolutely, absolutely. And the organization itself has been in existence for over 20 years. So it's not a new organization. They just for whatever reason, they just didn't have a very strong presence in Charlotte and Concord. And they're very active in North Carolina, but they needed some more visibility there. So and just recently the CEO and founder of the organization had an opportunity to go and sit down and talk with the governor. And that's the level of access that we have to our politicians in our state, and we really do appreciate that, because the CEO of the organization really took his time to kind of sit down with us and come up with the questions that we would want to present collectively. So that was great. So if you're in the North Carolina area, you definitely want to check us out, and hopefully we can collaborate on some projects together.
Absolutely. What do you got to lose? Collaborate and strengthen numbers.
Absolutely.
Everybody you
Absolutely.
serve should totally understand that. But I definitely did want to ask another question, just kind of popped in my mind because, it's business related and for your business, because, my father, he's been gone for many years, but he was a coal miner.
Mm.
He was also in real estate he was part-time for a little while until the coal mine shut down, but he was a coal miner for 25 years and he absolutely hated that job. And I remember
Mm.
as a little kid, he used to tell me all the time, do what you love so that
Mhm.
every day you wake up and you are excited to go to work. Just do not get stuck in a job that you hate. Whether it's a job or a business, no matter what, you've obviously started a business that you love, right? And a passion to get up and do every day. So to anybody else out there who's got this idea or this nugget of a business that they would have a passion for, any advice for them for following that path?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you said it. Follow your passion. I mean, for me, it really was about doing something that I absolutely loved. I love my job. I love being able to create. I love writing short stories. I love writing plays. And it's also very therapeutic. I mean, as a person that has experienced so much trauma, I needed to be able to release it. And so being able to build an organization that not only helped me, but helped so many other individuals that are in our organization. Our organization is comprised of veterans, advocates, clinicians, but also thriving survivors. So it gives them a platform as well to be able to share their voice and kind of turn their pain into something holistic and healthy, and that can help so many people. So I would absolutely say follow your passion. If it's something that you're dreaming about, just kind of keep moving forward. And if it's if it's scary, it's okay. That means that your dream is not big enough. Right. So just keep dreaming, keep pushing forward. It's going to be a little, nervous at first, but if you love it, it's easy to do it every single day, even when it's difficult. You just remember, why am I doing this again? Oh, yes, because of that one person that I was able to help. of that one smile that I was able to put on someone's face. And that's a constant reminder as to why I do what I do. And no matter what's happening, I keep moving forward. I keep pushing forward.
Yeah, I think for some people they kind of get this idea and they're like, but like I've got this passion for it, but how do I turn that into a business? How do I do this? How do I make money at this? Obviously, because you got to have a business that makes money, or well,
Yeah,
you have a hobby.
yeah,
So
yeah,
there is
yeah,
something to that, and it's a valid point. Sometimes you just got to take a leap of faith, and you just got to do it.
absolutely.
And if it's that much of a passion, if it's that important to you, then just do it and figure it out.
I'll tell you something. When I started this, I had already been training. I've already been doing, bold and impactful training. That was something that I've been doing for 25 years. Um, but what made it real for me is when I was sharing this with another person, saying, you know what, I'm thinking about doing this full time, and only focusing on this type of engagement. And when I was sharing with this one individual, they said to me, well, I've been waiting for you to tell me that you were going to start something like this. What took you so long? And when you are ready to go, when you're ready to go, call me. I'm going to be your first client. And I was like, really? And just off of the notion of the idea, and for me that situation was very encouraging, because you could potentially have met someone that said, I think that that's a horrible idea. But I was able to present it to a person, packaged it, put it together, and when I went back to them to say, okay, I'm ready, will you buy one of our services, they said absolutely. And then from there it opened up so many other doors. That's when I realized that I was really just onto something. It's just that first door being able to be open, and it doesn't matter how big or how small it is. If you are a baker and you love to make cupcakes, it turns into a business when you sell that very first cupcake. So just try to sell the very first cupcake. I mean, it seems like, oh no, you say like it's so easy, but it really is that easy. It's just putting one foot in front of the other and then associating a price tag to it. And just don't, minimize your value or your worth, because you're definitely worth it. And I would just say just one step in front of the other. And once you associate that dollar sign to it, it like you said, it turns into a business.
Absolutely. So speaking of yours, I think people probably have a pretty good idea here, but what exactly are the elements of your business and the different things that you're doing?
Yes. So, and that's a great question. So, thank you so much for asking that. So, as I shared with you, we are a violence prevention training organization that use unparalleled storytelling and through scripted and lived experience. And what that basically means is that we put on full productions, like a play, on social injustice topics. So, everything from sexual assault, sexual harassment, suicide prevention, domestic violence, human trafficking, just to name a few, are some of the topics, the uncomfortable topics that we poke fun at, and that we poke fun at ourselves. But the biggest thing is that through our presentations, we get people talking, talking about these things that are uncomfortable for us and becoming more comfortable with them, in an effort to get people to say, you know what, I'm not going to allow this to happen on my watch. So we have our theatrical presentations. We also do video presentations such as PSAs, short films, documentaries. We have the ability to do full productions. So you'll see, if you check out our YouTube page, you'll see some of the videos that we created on consent, on bystander intervention, sexual harassment, human trafficking. So those are just a handful of our services that we offer. And then we also sell training tools as well, because we recognize the importance of being able to, tap into every single audience. Some audiences or some organizations may not have the funds or the means or even the manpower to be able to have interactive advocacy come in and do a full performance for them. So they can actually go on our website and buy some of our training tools, which offers continuing education, which comes with workbooks and facilitator guides, and they're there to assist the trainer to do some really awesome and impactful training tools. And then finally, we also have what we like to call our awareness vibes, which is our merch that speaks. It's like our non-verb apparel that speaks to those individuals that really just want to stand up and speak out when it comes to social injustices.
Awesome. So very curious, especially in the veteran space here. I think it's really important to say to anybody who watches or listens to this. Obviously, not everybody is going to necessarily be in a position where they're needing to hire your services or anything like that. But if they see something come up at an event, I highly encourage somebody to go and attend an event. Challenge your mindset on things that you don't know that much about,
Yeah,
especially social justice issues, race issues, military sexual trauma, all kind, whatever it is. Whether you agree with it or not, go open your mind and challenge your thought. Like
absolutely,
everybody
absolutely.
should do it. If you see something on a calendar anywhere, Facebook, wherever you see it, get a ticket, go. Challenge your mind. Like that's really important. But
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
very curious how have you addressed for the military community things like suicide, mental health, and military sexual trauma?
Thank you for asking that. As a matter of fact, the organization, I'm here at a conference this week, and I would say maybe about 30%, 40% of the population is are military advocates. Mental health, suicide, sexual assault. This is a trauma, and abuse trauma type event. And one of the things that I really try to do is work with military organizations that have come forward and said, hey, listen, this is what some of the concerns is. We sit down with them, we work with their advocates, we come up with an assessment. Maybe they've done an assessment of their organization already, and they know what some of the hurdles are, what some of the complaints or concerns are. And what we do is we build training around what their concerns are. So, for example, if they tell us, hey, in our organization, one of the things that we're concerned with is male victimization. We're seeing more males coming forward, but they don't want to necessarily file a complaint because they don't want anyone to know because of the stigma. So they'll say, could you do training for us that focuses more on male victimization, that shows males being sexually harassed versus females being sexually harassed. So we'll sit down and we'll work with them, and then we'll draft a concept with some objectives, and then we'll represent that to the organization. And then once they say yes, that is the target, that's what we would really like to talk about, we take that information, we come back to our offices, and then we sit down with our writing team, and then we actually create the production that is going to go alongside that facilitators. And then we also have curriculum developers that'll assist us with creating the curriculum, and then our advocates or our clinicians will actually go out and conduct the training alongside with our excuse me, alongside our actors or our edutainers, and we'll put on that presentation for you. And everything involves audience and audience participation and engagement. So we pull them into our show. We give them the opportunity to experience the harm by putting them in the hot seat, so to speak. And everything that we do, we involve responsive or active bystander intervention, and everything from a continuum of harm to a continuum of care. And once we have allowed you to experience the harm, we can assist you with creating the care. And that is what we have found that works very well as far as our framework. So continuum of harm, continuum of care, and just really holding each other accountable.
Accountability is huge.
Absolutely.
Oh man, we all need an accountability partner. We all should be accountable to ourselves and our actions and all that. So I'm kind of curious after some of these when you've done them, because I know you've done some for the government and for the military.
Absolutely.
Um, Obviously, not looking for names or maybe necessarily stories, but I'm sure you've had people come up to yourself or some of your edutainers and probably open up about some of their situations. I'm sure it's probably happened quite frequently.
Every presentation. Not, I mean, quite frequently would be an understatement. Every single presentation, there is a line of individuals waiting to talk to us, to talk to me personally, to thank me for doing this, for sharing their own personal trauma, for saying that you have just empowered me to share my story because I haven't even come forward yet and said that I'm a victim of sexual assault or I've been contemplating suicide. Like every single presentation. And that is what drives me to keep going forward, to keep pushing, to keep doing the work that we do because of that one person that says, thank you. I appreciate you, and I appreciate them. I appreciate their candor, and their desire to just want to be better for themselves and not want to, be in silence, alone. And that, folks just really do come forward and share their stories and at every single presentation, but not just the thriving survivor or the person that hasn't come forward yet. Also, the responsive bystanders. It's also a great way for them to share. Hey, listen, this is actually what I did, and I want to know, did I do the right thing? Anytime you intervene and you stop harm, you've done the right thing as long as you're doing it safely. And so we get those individuals that share that. But when I look at the audience, I'm not just also talking to the victim. I'm not talking to the survivor. I'm not talking also to the advocates, or the commands. I'm also talking to perpetrators because they're also in the audience, or those individuals that are exhibiting toxic behaviors that haven't necessarily crossed the line yet, but they can look on the stage and see themselves and say, oh my goodness, is that me? And make the hard, right decision to change their ways, because this is prevention training. So we have to ensure that we're incorporating all of the elements of prevention, which means that we're actually talking to the potential perpetrators as well. And if we can get one, individual that can see themselves on that stage, maybe they're the ones that's CID is coming to arrest or something like that, or they now have to go and talk to, the MPs or something like that. Maybe if they can see themselves, being handcuffed or being interrogated, maybe they can see that, then they can say, you know what? I don't want that for me. I didn't realize that that's what I was doing. Now that I can see it, I want to make a difference and I want to do the right thing. And if I see someone else behaving that way, I can stop them. And our goal is to be able to also help those individuals that sometimes, young people, they find themselves in problems because they don't talk. They don't ask for something as simple as consent. They don't necessarily share. They bottle that information up and just keep it to themselves. And people will kind of share in different ways that something is going on. You just have to be mindful to pay attention to those nonverbs and not miss those red flags, because people will start to show you, that they're hurting.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, if you really look for the clues, I look, back on my service. There was people I served with who I don't know what happened, but I can reflect back and there was probably things that were happening to people that I served with that I have no idea, but
Yeah,
I'm sure things were happening. This statistically speaking, they were. It,
absolutely.
who, what,
Absolutely.
when, where, why, and how, I don't know, but it is. But I think the perpetrator thing is that's really huge, especially those that sit there who, like you said, to toxic behaviors.
Hmm.
Those that can sit there and see themselves before they take an action. That's huge. Um, that's probably the biggest one because unfortunately anybody else has already crossed that line. But I think most people just don't see. They can't see
Absolutely.
what the long-term impact is of their actions. And you can't use the excuse of like, oh, well, they're young, because we
Right.
know that it's not always two 18-year-olds or two 20-year-olds in service that, you know, sexual assault is happening. Sometimes it's supervisors who are
Absolutely.
40 years old with an 18-year-old. So you
Absolutely.
can't use that as an excuse. Sometimes it's power, position, privilege, those kind of things that play an impact. So, like, they need to realize, because I've had conversations with quite a few people who are survivors of military sexual trauma, that, for them, they did something terrible and horrific one time, maybe two times. You know, for that survivor, that is for the rest of their life that they are living with that
Absolutely.
physically and mentally, and that is affecting them, their relationships, their spouses, their kids, their friends, their family. It affects everything. It is a trickle down, everything for the rest of their life.
Absolutely. They're the hidden scars that no one sees. And even though you are thriving, that is now a part of who you are and will forever be. Myself, I always say, I'm not my trauma. But that doesn't mean that it's not there. It's not a part of who I am. It is. It's fueled, the work that I do. It's fueled, how I use my voice and how I stand up and speak out and why. But it will forever be a part of me. And if I could have gone back in time and not have had this happen to me, that would probably be what I would have wanted. But I also believe that everything has to happen for a reason. I believe that it had to be me. It had to be my voice so I could use it the way that I am now. Maybe if it was another person, they might not have taken this road. And I truly feel blessed that I've been able to turn what was so traumatic into something so powerful for me. Again, it was a part of my healing journey. But anything that we can do to just kind of get folks talking about this stuff, that's what we're here for. And so we're talking to perpetrators, and we're talking to everyone else in the audience. Those individuals that are exhibiting those toxic behaviors, and if you see it happen, at the end of the day. In the army they said put, their new thing is, or one of the new things was putting people first, excuse me, putting people first, and just being conscious about, our battle buddies, and being caring people. If we would just ask folks if they're okay, if you are all right, instead of automatically assuming that this person is ate up, they don't care, they don't want to be in this organization anymore. Maybe it's not that they're ate up. Maybe it's not that they just don't want to be there anymore. Maybe they are suffering in silence, and there's an issue of trust. They don't trust the leadership. They don't trust the command. They don't trust their fellow battle buddies, because especially if you're talking about sexual assault. And what if they were assaulted by someone within their ranks? They don't feel comfortable anymore. So we don't want to just automatically write those individuals off and just always assume that the person is just ate up and they don't want to be here, and now we want to process this person out of the military. Maybe there's something more to that. So if we can create a culture of caring people, where we actually really believe in, and when we say that's our battle buddy, and see that person that way, and know that if anything happens to that individual, I'm going to be there for them. If we can start really embracing that concept, I think we'll also start to see those changes taking place.
I could not agree more. I'm a firm believer that everybody, uh, especially those that are charged, officers and NCOs, senior NCOs, those who've gone through the training to be leaders. Everybody's a leader, yes, but everybody, especially those individuals who've gone through the training, should be looking at everybody in their unit, all their battle buddies, and getting some sort of a feel or assessment for everybody's. I guess I'll say their neutral behavior. Some people are high energy, some people are low energy. Everybody's personality, their core standard flow. I mean, everybody's different, so that when Tanya comes in tomorrow, if her behavior or her attitude is wildly different than yesterday, if she's, at a scale of 1 to 10, she's at a 5, 9 times out of 10, but she comes in and she is irate and angry today, or she's really, really low and depressed, like there's something wrong. Okay.
Right.
You need to ask the questions. You got
Right.
to pull that person aside in a safe way and be like, hey, what's going on? Is something going on in your personal life, professionally? Can I help? I'm here. I'm your battle buddy. What can I do for you?
Right. Right.
But you got to know what the baseline is. You got to know your people. But like you said, it comes to talking. You have to
Absolutely.
communicate.
Absolutely, absolutely, and building healthy relationships, because that's really what that is. If leaders are building healthy relationship with their workforce, or whether it's platoon sergeants or squad leaders, even NCYCs of your organizations. If you build healthy relationships and you create that dialogue very early on, you're going to be able to make that assessment and be able to determine if something is off, because there's been a kind of a change in that person's behavior. You're going to be able to notice that. But again, that dialogue, having that conversation, and then not only just having that conversation. The other thing is, if someone comes to you and tell you, yes, I am going through something, you need to know what the next response is going to be, because sometimes that is also a fair. Sometimes people are not willing to be actively engaged with wanting to know what's going on with someone else, because if they say, this is what I'm dealing with, they may not know what to do. So, make sure that you're also tapped into your resources, whether you are on active duty and you need to know where your sharp or sapper offices are, or your fusion directorates are, or your mental health or suicide prevention. Know where those offices are. And then if you are a veteran and you're no longer in the military, there's other resources available to you, whether it's the VA or agencies, and national agencies like RAIN or that kind of thing. Know what those agencies are around you, so that if someone was comfortable enough and they trusted you enough to share, I'm in pain, you now know who to take them to, because you can't fix the problem yourself. But at least if you know the resource, you can, send them to the right person and align them and walk them there. If they trust you enough, walk them there. Make sure that that individual is safe.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Don't just hand somebody off and say, well, you need to go talk to the chaplain. There's a chaplain's office. Exactly. Hey, let's hop in the car. Let's go over there after duty, whatever. Even if you maybe, I'm no expert in this, but maybe you offer to make that phone call. Be like, would you like me to make the phone call and get the chaplain to make sure the chaplain's there at 5:30 after
Absolutely.
after after we're off for the duty day, right?
Absolutely.
And then I will take you over there in my car, and then you can go in and have that conversation. But I'll walk in that door with you. You're gonna have to walk through that final door with
Right.
them, but I'll wait out in that lobby for you too. You got to
Absolutely.
be the battle buddy.
You have
You
to
got
be
to
the
be.
battle buddy. Yeah, yeah. You have to be the battle buddy, because who knows? You literally may have saved someone's life and you don't even know it.
Yeah. And think about it like this: that person needs somebody. If the shoe is on the other foot,
Mm.
would you want somebody there for you? Because the answer is going to be yes.
Yeah,
Because you don't want to be out in that lonely space where you feel like you're flopping around in no man's land. You're the fish fish on the shore. Like, hey, I'm out here alone. I don't know what I'm doing.
yeah.
Like, you need somebody there with you that can be like,
Absolutely.
I got you. It's fine.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Especially if it's somebody in your chain of command. And you don't have that comfort, and it's like, we're going to go here. We're going to go to, the chaplain or the was it sapper, or the sexual assault office, or we're going to go to the inspector general's office, or we're going to go to legal, whatever you're going to go. Maybe it's a financial issue. We're going to go to finance. We're going to take
Right.
care of this issue, whatever
Right.
the case is. Like, sometimes you just need that.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just a bad day, and sometimes somebody's just like, hey, look, I'm just dealing with some personal issues. I'm just dealing with this X, Y, and Z. Maybe they just need somebody to vent to for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
lend an ear.
That's it. It's so easy. It's so easy to make someone smile. It's easy to be kind. It's easy to be caring. It doesn't take any effort. It really doesn't. I would tell folks all the time. People are like, well, Tanya, I don't ever really see you upset or angry or mad. I'm like, I get upset, but I can't devote energy into it for a long period of time. You've got to let that stuff go. That manifests into disease and heartache and poor health. And I can't do that. But it's easy for me to be kind. It's easy for me to just ask someone, are you okay? And allow them to tell me, yes, I'm okay, I'm all right. And sometimes, especially with we're just coming out of the pandemic, right? And everything was social distance, social distance, social distance. And I would tell everyone all the time, okay, I get it. We've got to physically, keep our distance, but don't jump on the social distance bandwagon, because people are in isolation and people are still suffering. So don't keep them more isolated. Check in on your battle buddies. Sometimes a phone call is so much better than a text, because with a text, if I ask you, are you okay? It's easy for me to say, yep, I'm okay. Yep. Or give you a thumbs up. And you don't know what I'm dealing with. So sometimes it's okay to pick up the phone and call that person and say, are you okay? Are you all right? Especially if you know that folks are going through some stuff, when you're dealing with mental health or depression, and hold those individuals accountable and say, you know what? Well, I'm going to call you tomorrow. Are you going to answer the phone tomorrow when I call you? It like little things like that. You have no idea how much they can really help a person that's struggling mentally, because now that person, even if it's hard for them to show up for themselves, they're now willing to show up for you and keep their promise to just be there the very next day, you know. So there's just so many different things. So just again, pick up the phone sometimes and check on your battle buddies, make sure that they're okay.
Exactly. You just said something I've said a few times here on the show is, I got a little ending slide, and I've said it a few times. It's been a while, I think, since I said it, but you know, all of us battle buddies want our battle buddies here tomorrow.
Mhm.
We want you here tomorrow. This, I haven't seen the official stats, but apparently the stats have changed, and it's like 44 a day.
Mhm.
And it's like, come on, we are going in the wrong direction here. I get it. There's a pandemic. I know that definitely played a factor in it.
Mhm.
But we are really going the wrong direction on this.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. We do.
It's
We've got to come together, and I mean, we have got to just look out for our battle buddies. We really do. We say battle so easy, oh, that's my battle, that's my battle. But if your battle is struggling, do you really know? Are you checking in on them? Do you know what they're going through? Is their families okay? You just have to make that phone call.
and you never know. I mean, sometimes your battle buddies can look like they're doing good. I've got battle buddies who, looks like everything's going good. I know some guys that everything on the outside looks like it's going good, but I
Mhm,
know on the inside there's a lot of pain. There's a lot of
mhm.
hurt that those guys have almost become a statistic. Um, I mean, we all have our ups and downs. I mean, I've had days
Yeah,
where, I've never I've had days over the last couple months where I'm trying to find clarity in my mind and directions of what way I'm going, and that depression, and you could find yourself just down.
yeah,
Not to that point where you start thinking and planning things, but where you're just down and you're just
yeah,
like, man. And even in this space, after doing over 100 episodes of this now, talk about mental health all the time, like I'm very well aware that you even get down in that space, you are a slippery slope away from some very dangerous thoughts.
yes, yes.
And that's just a very scary place to be,
It is.
and you just got to have those wingman. Luckily, I do have some battle buddies that do check on me every now and then. They send me some messages. I like, I got my wife, that's the ultimate battle buddy, even though she didn't serve. And I've told her, like, hey, if I start, if my base level starts to change and I start, kind of getting down, I need you to grab me. Here's the resources, here's the number. You know what I mean? Don't let me slip down this hole.
Yeah,
You can't.
yeah.
It's not just on the battle buddies either. It's on the families.
Oh,
I,
absolutely.
I got, I know you got some adult kids. I got two kids. They're you know preteens at this point. Um, but I've had conversations with my oldest. I showed him a post. I didn't know the gentleman, but it's floated around Facebook here over the last couple of weeks, about I guess over last week, that the gentleman posted that he had a wife, same first name as my wife actually, and he was just too much at work, too much stress, too many things going on. He had at least one kid. Couldn't do it anymore. He was going to be a statistic, and none of his battle buddies could reach him that night, and he did become a statistic.
Wow.
And and it's like, oh man, there goes another.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we just another one fell through the cracks, and I don't know if it's right or wrong, but I showed that post to my 12-year-old,
Hmm.
and because I'm very open with my kids, at least my 12-year-old, because he kind of understands mental health, and he's done some volunteering stuff with me, and I was like, look, you know, these vets struggle. He's listened to a few episodes of the podcast, and I'm like,
Hmm.
this stuff is real. This is why
Yeah.
Dad does this podcast. This is real. This is why we need help around here. This is why vets need help.
Yeah.
And he's like, man, you know, that's really powerful, Dad. That's a shame. I was like, yeah, it is.
Yeah, it really is. And I just appreciate you as well, Keith, and having this platform and making it so that veterans can come on here, share their stories, share their, whether it's the triumphant and even some of their trauma. But it's also a reminder to other veterans that, you're not alone. You're not alone in this battle. You're not alone in this fight. Yes, there's stigma. Yes, there's stereotypes, but we need to break the violence, the biases, and show one another that, listen, I'm going through some serious stuff here too, Metal. And if you, if you need something, give us a call. And we'll try to see what we can do to point you in the right direction and get you the help you need. So having this platform, thank you so much, because it's just a great way for other veterans to see that you're not alone in your suffering. You're really not alone.
Thank you. Well, I look at it like we have to take care of each other.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can't. I mean, I know a lot of fellow vets. I can't pick up the phone and call everybody every day. And I look at it as a great opportunity to educate and inspire. Every episode I want to. That's kind of the main goal: educate and inspire. One or the other, or both. Both is great too. But it's a great way to just reach out to other vets and
Yeah.
offer hope, educate and inspire. It's just me doing my one little action to try and reach. I think we all need to find something, and it doesn't have to be huge.
Yeah.
You've got your way, I've got my way. If we all just go out there and find something, I don't care if it's picking up garbage out on the side of the street, or if it's volunteering at your VFW or your American Legion, or what it is in your community, serving veterans, not serving veterans. Everybody needs to get involved. It, we all put on a uniform. We all know what it is to serve. You, the most important thing is to find purpose.
Find purpose. Yes. Find purpose.
And
Yes.
like for me, this podcast gives me purpose.
Yeah.
It's like, I like days where I've been down. It's like I couldn't give up on this podcast. This
Mhm.
gives me purpose.
Yeah.
I've got messages to spread. I've got other battle buddies messages to spread. We've got people to reach. We got people to
Mhm.
impact. Can't give
Yeah.
up on it. You
Yeah.
know, not that I
Uh,
want to, but it just you can't. There's a mission. It's got to continue. The
Yeah.
numbers aren't going down. They're going up, not
Yeah.
going down. I could give up on this when the numbers hit zero.
Yeah. I've said that. I've said that. I've
You know,
said that. I've
so
said the same thing. Yeah.
let's like we. So if we all just pitch in and we work really hard and we take care of ourselves, we could work ourselves out of a job.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've said that. I've said the same thing. I've said, you know what? I would love a day where I could wake up and say, I don't have to do this work anymore. Because, we are now in a society where everything is just, working the way that it's supposed to. But unfortunately, at this, at this day and age, there isn't a society that exists, in which violence doesn't exist. There isn't a society right now that exists without violence. And anything that I can do to just minimize the level of violence we're seeing, because there's just one more person committed to not being that violent person, to not exhibiting those behaviors, then we're heading in the right direction. We're heading in the right direction. And one of the things I think also is great about your show is that folks get an opportunity to come on here and kind of share some of the unique ways that they're giving back to the community, especially amongst us as veterans. You may be able to tap into someone that's doing something similar to what you like. Our organization is comprised of so many different veterans. Who knew there were so many other veterans that had experienced trauma that also wanted to act? And it's just a team of us. And one of my guys, um an amazing actor, he was a part of 18th Airborne Division, and at Fort Bragg, jumping out of airplanes, and now he's acting, and but when we're doing our presentations in front of other military, he gets to use language that other soldiers use, and it's relatable, and it's like, what, I believe him, I believe that story, because man, I was right there with you, brother. And that's really cool. So I think also having this platform, it's a great way for other veterans to kind of network and say, hey, you know what, I like plays, I like theater, I want to do something similar to that, or I want to do a podcast, can you share some information with me so I can learn? So I appreciate that as well.
Yeah, I've had a few people, kind of say that too. Like, oh, yeah, I'd like to be a podcast. Like, yeah, I've learned a lot over 100 plus episodes in 3 years. So, like, sure, I'll teach you everything I know. I don't care. You
Yeah.
know, I don't know it all, but you learn a lot of things by doing it. The biggest thing is you just got to do it.
Yeah.
Just figure out what you're going to do and just do it.
Yes.
But but no, that's pretty cool about the airborne guy that's acting, because that's got to be just like yourself. Like, it's got to be so incredibly rewarding
Oh yeah.
to do that and be like, I know I'm making an impact, especially when it's a military connected or government audience or things like that. To be like, all right, I know there's somebody in this audience. Like, there's always going to be somebody in the audience that's going to get a takeaway, like you said, but particularly there, because it's so much like more deep and raw. Like, I had a conversation with somebody last couple of days at a work thing for myself, and we were talking about something work related, and I tried explaining to them like kind of what it is to be a vet.
Mm.
And they were like, would you invest in this and this, like into something work related, for real estate related? And I was like, I mean, I invest a little bit into that thing, but I don't invest a lot. All right, not
Mm.
not to the level that they want, monetarily. Um, and they're like, well, why not? And I said, hopefully I can articulate this well enough. I was like, but and this particular person, I've known her for years, but she didn't serve.
Mm.
And I was like, I may have been around real estate for, because I grew up around it. I've been selling for 10 years. I may have been around it for 30 something years, and I'm very passionate about it. I'm very passionate about being an advocate for private property rights and all those kind of things. I may be more than willing to invest some money into protecting those private property rights, but nothing, even though I've been doing this 10 years, been around it for 30 something, nothing will compare to the 5.5 years that I wore a uniform. The
Mm.
connections that I made on 2 deployments, the connections I've made doing this podcast and other veterans groups, the stories I've heard, the very unfortunate posts that I've seen about people saying this is it, and we know that they're not there tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's so deeply into your heart, so woven into who you are. Like you
Yeah.
said, like it's part of who you are. And I was like, I'm sorry. Like, I can be passionate about that too, but it's just never going to be as deep and raw and real to me as this is.
Yeah.
This is always going to be number one.
Yeah.
I'm always going to, if I'm looking down a fork in a road and it's like, do this or go help a battle buddy that's laying in the street.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I know which direction I'm going.
Yeah.
I'm going to go pick up my battle buddy. I, there's no choice.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah. I agree with you on that. I didn't know what my career was going to be. Like I wasn't even thinking about a career when I first came into the military. But it just over the 25 years, I would not have traded this for anything else in the world. You know, there's nothing like serving your country, and there's nothing like the bands and the camaraderie of all of the folks that you've met over the years, the good, the bad, the ugly, like all of it. I wouldn't trade any of it, and all of it has helped me become the person that I am today. Some of my oldest and dearest friends today, we go back 25 years. I met them at my first duty station, and we're still friends to this day. And so I'm right there with you. When I see another veteran, it doesn't matter what branch of service they are, there's just a level of connection. And then if we're both from the same branch of service, I mean it's like, oh my goodness. Okay, so you can tell all of a sudden every word that comes out her mouth is whore,
Uh,
whore.
yeah. Well, that
Whatever
actually happened
she's
at
doing.
my event the other day too, because it was politically surrounded. It was at the state capitol, and so one of our state senators came to the little happy hour thing afterwards, and somebody else brought him over because he found out he was an Air Force vet, and so there's other people around who are not vets, and we're talking, and this guy comes over and he's like, Keith, hey, you got to meet this state senator. He's an Air Force vet. And so he shakes my hand. He's like, "Oh, what career field were you in?" He goes, I was an officer, and I was, blah, blah, blah. I can't remember what. And so like we're just like never met each other before,
Yeah,
and we're like instant friends. And
yeah,
like the conversation is instantly between him and I. Everybody else is just completely ignored, and
yeah,
everybody else is like, "What's going on?"
yeah,
And we just could completely engage in conversation for 10 minutes. Nothing real estate, all
yeah,
military. Where'd you serve? What'd you do? Well,
yes,
and it's
yes.
like everybody else just people just started like just walking away.
Yeah, it's like you speak your own language. I love that. I mean, you don't even realize that it's happening when it's happening, but because you're so excited that you're meeting someone that has kind of been there, where you are, and so I love it. Same thing happened to me just yesterday, as a matter of fact. And I'm talking and I'm sharing and I'm telling, okay, this is what we do with interactive advocacy, that kind of thing. And then, one of the young ladies that I was talking to, she was like, "Oh yeah," and I was stationed here and there, and I started telling her. She was like, "Wait, you military?" I was like, "Yeah, Army." Who? And she was like, "Oh my gosh, what?" And then everything just from there, everyone else was like you said, "What are they talking about?" Like they took over the whole entire conversation, and it was great. And we're gonna meet for lunch in a couple of days. So I'm right there with you. That level, that bond, that brotherhood, that sisterhood, it's just one of those things that's just kind of unbreakable.
Absolutely. Yeah, unfortunately, it's one of those things that we have to step that up a notch.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have to take that and just we have to 10x that. To make an impact on those numbers. But
Yeah.
you know how we do that, I don't know. But I guess we're all finding our ways, and I appreciate everything that you're doing.
Thank you.
I really am looking forward to check it out. I'm gonna have to keep a really close eye on your calendar, see where
Yes.
you guys are doing some things. Uh, because I'm very, very intrigued. Especially, we really didn't hit on it, but I know you got the facilitation and some of that other stuff behind it. I think it's great to see all the play, but then to sit there and have conversations and purposeful conversations behind things is just it's huge. So I really look forward to that. And like I said earlier, anybody who's looking for something like that definitely needs to reach out to you. I'll have the scrolling there.
Yeah.
Get your website scrolling there to be in the show notes too. So have no fear. It'll all be there for anybody who's watching or listening. But where else can people reach out to and find you? other than your
Yeah,
website there?
other than our website, check out all of our social media platforms, everything at Interactive Advocacy. If you go to our Google us, you'll see everywhere where we're located. You definitely want to follow us on our IG page because there we share a lot of the different things that we're doing. We do a lot of virtual presentations that are free. So you'll have an opportunity to kind of jump in. We do a lot of creative expression pieces. We have poetry events. All that stuff is, online. We do advocacy and poetry. It's online. It's free. And you can participate. You can come share your stories. Or you can just chat with us, and or even if you need resources, you can reach out to us and request them, and we can get some stuff sent over to you. So everything at Interactive Advocacy.
That makes it nice and easy to remember. So there you go. That's definitely easy to remember, and everybody should definitely go check that out. So I appreciate you, Tanya, for coming on here and sharing a little bit about what you do, and definitely
Thank
great
you.
conversation about mental health. I have
Thank
no
you.
doubt that that will be helpful for some people, and maybe we get lucky and a few people pick up the phone and called some battle buddies, or hopefully they waited until after the show here. And if you haven't, there's your cue. Pick up the
Yeah,
phone and call a battle buddy.
yeah.
So I appreciate you coming on the show and sharing with us.
Thank you so much again. Thank you, Keith. I appreciate you having me. It was a pleasure.
Yep. You enjoy that rest of that trip in Hawaii there.
Oh, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
You too. All right, there you have it, folks. I hope you enjoyed that. Speaking of resources, I got my website, battlebuddypodcast.net. As I always say, if there's something that's not on there and you think it should be on there, please reach out and let me know. And if I think it's a good fit, then I'll look at trying to incorporate that somewhere on the website. And if you are struggling, remember the National Suicide Hotline number is 988 press 1, or you can text 838 255.